Can you imagine growing up never knowing your father existed, only to meet him for the first time at your mother's grave? What if the only person who could protect you suddenly vanished and a stranger held the key to your past, your future, and your heart? It was raining that morning, not just a soft drizzle, but the kind of downpour that made the sky look like it was mourning too. 3 small figures stood under a black umbrella, their little shoes soaked, tiny hands clutching one another tightly. They were 6-year-old Triplets Seller, Jonah, and Hope, dressed in matching dark coats. Their big, wondering eyes stared at the freshly filled grave, not fully understanding the finality of what had happened. Their mother, Claire, had passed just days before. Pneumonia, sudden, swift, and cruel. She'd raised them alone, waitressing double shifts, humming lullabies into the night, and shielding them from a truth she had locked away in her heart, a name she never spoke. They had no other family, no grandparents, no aunts, no uncles. The Triplets were now officially wards of the state. That is, until he appeared. Claire had moved to the small town of Cedar Falls 6 years ago, pregnant and alone. Nobody asked, and she never told. She poured her love into the children. Each with their own spark. Ella was quiet and observant. Jonah was loud and full of questions. And Hope, well, Hope was the one who always made people smile. And though money was tight and nights were long, there was always laughter, always music, always love. But Claire had secrets. She kept a locked wooden box at the top of the closet. Inside was a faded photograph of a man in army fatigues, smiling, arms around a younger Claire. A torn-up letter she could never throw away. A birth certificate with a blank next to father's name, to days after the funeral. The social worker arrived at the modest apartment to explain what would happen next. The Triplets would be placed in foster care, possibly together, but no promises. That night, as the children lay on their small mattresses in silence, the doorbell rang. An unfamiliar man stood on the porch, tall, weathered, a military duffel slung over his shoulder. He held his hat in trembling hands, his eyes red not from rain, but from memories. I'm looking for Claire Benson," he said, voice breaking. The neighbor who opened the door whispered back, "She passed just 2 days ago. She was buried yesterday." The man nodded. He didn't speak, just turned and walked down the porch steps, then collapsed on the sidewalk, knees hitting the concrete like a prayer dropped from heaven. His name was Marcus, and he was their father. Marcus had been deployed when Claire discovered she was pregnant. They were young, foolish, and hadn't even exchanged numbers after his sudden reassignment. By the time he returned, she was gone, vanished. He searched for her, but not hard enough. Life moved on, or so he thought, until a friend from the service mentioned seeing her obituary online. Single mother of triplets. The name, the photo, the town. He'd driven 12 hours overnight, straight to her grave. And as he stood there, in the rain, staring at her name etched in stone, 3 small voices behind him asked, "Who are you?" He turned and saw them. Ella, Jonah, Hope. He didn't need a DNA test. He saw himself in Jonah's eyebrows, in Ella's quiet stillness. Hope had Claire's smile, but his eyes. I think I'm your dad, he whispered. He didn't expect forgiveness, or even a chance. But that night, he asked the social worker to give him a week. 1 week to prove he could be a father. Marcus rented a small house in town, bought bunk beds, painted the walls. He couldn't afford much, but he made pancakes in the morning and read stories at night. His deep voice shaky, but full of effort. Ella tested him with silence, Jonah with chaos, Hope with hugs she gave to freely. Still, he showed up every morning, every night. He was their dot, and when Jonah scraped his knee at the park, Marcus didn't freeze. He knelt down, wiped the tears, and whispered, "I got you, buddy. I got you," on the 5th night. Ella snuck into his room holding a weathered wooden box. "Mummy kept this," she said. "You should have it now." Inside, Marcus found her old letters, all unsent, some angry, some aching, all filled with love. Claire had never stopped thinking about him. He sat on the floor and wept, letting the kids see the kind of tears strong men should cry. When Marcus applied for custody, the system hesitated, single, unemployed, no history with the children. But something incredible happened. Claire's old boss from the diner wrote a letter. So did the teacher who had seen Marcus pick the kids up every day that week. The librarian he'd asked for parenting books. Even the grocery clerk who watched him count every dollar, but never once say no to fruit or milk. The town rallied. One by one, voices stood for him, not because he was perfect, but because he was trying. And kindness real. Everyday kindness built a bridge for a broken man to become a whole father. At the final hearing, the judge looked over the papers, then down at the 3 children huddled together in the front. "Road children," she asked gently, "where do you want to live?" Hope raised her tiny hand. "With Daddy Marcus, please." That night, Marcus carried each of them to bed in his new, rented house. There were still boxes unpacked, bills to juggle, and parenting books stacked on the counter. But there was also laughter. There was music. There was love. Can you imagine? Finding family in the most unexpected way. Sometimes, the road back isn't paved with perfection. It's paved with effort, with love, with strangers who become neighbors, neighbors who become friends, and the unshakable power of kindness that holds it all together. Marcus wasn't just the father they had. He became the father they deserved. And Claire, somewhere beyond the clouds, she finally rested, knowing her babies were home. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Do you believe kindness can heal the past? Leave your thoughts in the comments. We read everyone. And if you want more inspiring stories like this, go ahead and tap the next video right here on your screen.